St. Augustine commentary on the Gospel of John, chapter 10, verse 14 to 21, following. Many things are expressed by a word. All that I have just said, I have said, of course, by means of words. If I were wishing to speak also of a word itself, how could I do so but by the use of the word? And thus both many things are expressed by a word, which are not the same as the word, and the word itself can only be expressed by means of the word. By the Lord's help, we have been copious in illustration. Remember then how the Lord Jesus Christ is both the door and the shepherd. The door in presenting himself to view, the shepherd in entering in by himself. And indeed, brethren, because he is the shepherd, he has given to his members to be so likewise. For both Peter and Paul and the other apostles were, as all good bishops are, shepherds. But none of us calls himself the door. This, the way of entrance for the sheep, he has retained as exclusively belonging to himself. In short, Paul discharged the office of a good shepherd when he preached Christ, because he entered by the door. But when the undisciplined sheep began to create schisms and to set up other doors before them, not of entrance to their joint assembly, but for falling away into divisions, saying, some of them I am of Paul, others I am of Cephas, others I of Apollos, others I of Christ, terrified for those who said, I am of Paul. As if calling out to the sheep, wretched ones, whither are you going? I am not the door, he said. Was Paul crucified for you? Or were you baptized in the name of Paul? 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 12 and 13. But those who said, I am of Christ, had found the door. But of the one shepherd and of the one shepherd, you are now indeed being constantly reminded, for we have commanded much the one sheepfold, preaching unity, that all the sheep should enter by Christ, and none of them should follow Donatus. Nevertheless, for what particular reason this was said by the Lord is sufficiently apparent. For he was speaking among the Jews and had been specially sent to the Jews, not for the sake of that class who were bound up in their inhuman hatred and persistently abiding in darkness, but for the sake of some in the nation whom he calls his sheep, of whom he said, I am not sent but to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Matthew chapter 15, verse 24. He knew them even amid the crowd of his raging foes, and foresaw them in the peace of believing. What then does he mean by saying, I am not sent but to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, but that he exhibited his bodily presence only to the people of Israel? He did not proceed himself to the Gentiles, but sent. To the people of Israel he both sent and came in person, that those who proved despisers should receive the greater judgment, because favored also with the sight of his actual presence. The Lord himself was there. There he chose a mother, there he wished to be conceived, to be born, to shed his blood. There are his footprints. Now objects of adoration, where last he stood and whence he ascended to heaven, but to the Gentiles he only sent. But perhaps someone thinks that, as he himself came not to us but sent, we have not heard his own voice, but only the voice of those whom he sent. Far from it. Let such a thought be banished from your hearts, for he himself was in those whom he sent. Listen to Paul himself, whom he sent, for Paul was specially sent as an apostle to the Gentiles, and it is Paul who, terrifying them not with himself but with him, says, "Do you wish to receive a proof of him who speaks in me, that is, of Christ?" 2 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 3. Listen also to the Lord himself. "Another sheep I have, that is among the Gentiles, which are not of this fold, that is, of the people of Israel. Them also must I bring. Therefore, even when it is by the instrumentality of his servants, it is he and not another that brings them." Listen further. "They shall hear my voice. See here also it is he himself who speaks by his servants, and it is his voice that is heard, in whom he sends. That there may be one fold and one shepherd. Of these two flocks, as of two walls, is the cornerstone formed." Ephesians chapter 2, verse 11 to 22. "And thus is he both the door and the cornerstone, all by way of comparison, none of them literally. For I have said so before and earnestly pressed it on your notice, and those who comprehend it are wise, those who are wise do comprehend it. And yet let those who are not yet intellectually enlightened keep hold by faith of what they can't as yet understand. Christ is many things metaphorically, which, strictly speaking, he is not. Metaphorically, Christ is both a rock and a door, and a cornerstone, and a shepherd, and a lamb, and a lion. How numerous are such similitudes, and as many more as would take too long to enumerate. But if you select the strict significations of things as you are accustomed to see them, then he is neither a rock, for he is not hard and senseless, nor a door, for no artisan made him, nor a cornerstone, for he was not constructed by a builder, nor a shepherd, for he is no keeper of four-footed animals, nor a lion, as it ranks among the beasts of the forest, nor a lamb, as it belongs to the flock. All such then are by way of comparison. But what is he properly? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. God was the Word. And what as he appeared in human nature, and the Word was made flesh and dwelt amongst us. Hear also what follows. Therefore does my Father love me, he says, because I laid down my life that I might take it again. What is this that he says? Therefore does my Father love me, because I die, that I may rise again. For the I is uttered with special emphasis, because I lay down, he says, I lay down my life. I lay down. What is that I lay down? I lay it down. Let the Jews no longer boast they might rage, but they could have no power. Let them rage as they can. If I were unwilling to lay down my life, what would all their raging effect? By one answer of his, they were prostrated in the dust. When they were asked, "Whom do you seek?" they said, "Jesus." And on his saying to them, "I am he," they went backward and fell to the ground. John chapter 18, verse 4 to 6. Those who thus fell to the ground at one word of Christ when about to die, what will they do at the sound of his voice when coming to judgment? I say, lay down my life, that I may take it again. Let not the Jews boast as if they had prevailed. He himself laid down his life. I laid me down to sleep, he says elsewhere. You know the psalm, I laid me down and slept, and I awaked. I rose up, for the Lord sustained me. What of that I lay down? Because it was my pleasure I did so. What does I lay down mean? I died. Was it not a lying down to sleep on his part, who, when he pleased, rose from the tomb as he would from a bed? But he loves to give glory to the Father, that he may stir us up to glorify our Creator. For in adding, I arose, for the Lord sustained me, think you there was here a kind of failing in his power, so that, while he had it in his own power, to die, he had it not in his power to rise again? So indeed the words seem to imply, when not more closely considered, I lay down to sleep. But that is, I did so because I pleased, and I rose. Why? Because the Lord sustained me. Psalm 3 verse 5. What then? Would you not have power to rise of yourself? If you had not the power, you would not have said, I have power to lay down my life, and I have power to take it again. But as showing that not only did the Father raise the Son, but the Son also raised himself, here now, in another passage in the Gospel, he said, Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. And the evangelist adds, But this he spoke of the temple of his body. John chapter 2, verse 19 and 21. For not only that which died was restored to life, the Word is not mortal, his soul is not mortal. If even yours die not, could the Lord's be subject to death?